All right, that's recording. Beautiful. So everything's recording. Everything's running. Hello, everyone. So this is going to be a return, return to the Shine and Kinder project, which was effectively a project name before I came up with the actual name of the project. You know, something that I could just save the files with. And now that I was looking at it, and it's a really cool looking project. But unfortunately, that by the time that I made all the progress, and by the time I was tinkering with a lot of the lighting stuff, which to be honest was kind of unprecedented, I've been kind of burnt out on the project, and I felt that a lot of the ideas weren't coming through as well, and you know, there was just it was a bottleneck. I could technically continue going at it, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to do as much in the same time frame as when I started the project, and that's kind of what burnout does to you. So with a lot of my projects, I ended up shelving it until I can feel that I can come back to it full force once again. So this is why, at least in this case, I'm jumping between projects depending on how I feel about the progress that I'm making. So if I don't feel like I'm getting as much done, and if the ideas take such a long time to come across, and you feel it, right? The burnout is something that you really feel about. So I took a pause. I worked on some other projects. I worked on some other projects that are not even game development related. And now that I've been working on the Light Flight project, it actually came into perspective just how underdeveloped the Light Flight project is when I got into that idea. And the whole premise of it was basically just, a quick experiment. And then it somehow ended up turning into this huge project. Huge, relatively speaking. The only reason I say that is because there were a few problems that took me quite a while to get accustomed to, or to figure out, like the networking problems, right? Those took me a while to figure out. Okay, so let me actually run this again. Okay. You know what? I'd actually better close a lot of this stuff. I really don't need it to be open. Alright. Close this, close all of the extra stuff I don't need. What is this? That's the stuff that I do need. Okay, beautiful. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and run this. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to actually dive into the concept artwork for the Shine and Kinder project, or now that it's going to be called the Child of Aether. So I started that project with what I could call right now a prototype. So I got it to a point where it's working, it's doing what it needs to do, and once I had most of the core stuff done, and that's relatively speaking, there's still quite a lot that I still have to do. I kind of ended up diving way too deep into trying to figure out lighting. And another thing is that I ended up relying on one of the viewers to help me out with the creation of the lighting engine. But the problem is that the amount of work that was already put into the lighting engine, and the effect that we were getting at that point was, it was not enough. So there would have to be a lot more work to be done on the lighting shader before it would even be usable in any sort of sense. So what I decided is that I'm gonna not bother with the advanced lighting, and what I'm gonna do is I'll concentrate on just the gameplay for the time being. The way the lighting is set up right now is more or less stylistically satisfying. It would be great if I could have, you know, real-time shadows and all the good stuff. But to be honest, right now, I can get away with just using fog and ambient light in order to define the surrounding areas. And I think I should be able to use the built-in lights in order to get at least some sort of like a basic system in, right? Okay, but what I want to do now is I just want to do concept art, right? I've only touched barely on the concept art for this project when I started out. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up Google Drive. We'll open up the script, excuse me. There's so much tea here. I need one of those dunking heaters. You know, you put it in your cup, it keeps my tea warm. That's what I need in life. If I could have one wish, I would ask for a eternally hot cup of tea. Okay, so Shining Kinder script. And that's another thing. I still need to do the script workup on the project. So the script right now is kind of bare bone, and I remember keeping a lot of the script in my head. Terrible idea. I legitimately thought that I wrote down everything for that script. And the problem is that now I'm looking around here and I'm thinking, where are all these ideas that I was writing down, that I was working with? And you know, that's when I realized I didn't. I kept them all in my head, and now, you know, give it maybe a few more months, I would have forgotten a good portion of it. So I've started writing these things down. But anyways, what I want to do here is I actually want to go over these objects that I have written down so far. Enemies, you know, whatnot. And I want to make the concept art for these pieces. And I'll be using the concept art when I create the textures and models for the core of the game. Right now there's very little that's actually in the game. Okay. Now there's one thing about this project is that the first time when I started out, I was working on a prototype, but a lot of the assets which started out as concept art ended up making it into the game. So this is kind of the thing you have to, or I have to think about, is how much of my effort is going to be spent on concept art, and how much of that concept art will I be able to use in the game as just core assets without having to redraw them, right? Just something to keep in my mind. We got tiles, dirt, grass. Ooh, Krita can do tiled textures, which is something that I found out recently, which is absolutely phenomenally amazing, right? So I'm actually really excited about trying it out. I think it's going to be really cool. Okay. The fact that it allows you to draw tiles will make it super simple to create tiled grass, right? As of right now, the tiled grass is kind of, you know, yeah, it's kind of terrible. And another thing is that before I go too far into the, you know, into the whole project, I think I might have to scale up the overall size of the game, as right now it's kind of See, I want to use tiles. I do want to use tiles for layering things like paths and, you know, little grass patches and whatnot. But right now the game is scaled to such an extent that one single tile is, you know, it's basically, if this is the character, one single tile is about this big, right? And that's 32 pixels by 32 pixels. Not a whole lot of detail you can fit into 32 pixels, especially when the game is zoomed in like that, right? You can get away with some generic stuff, but you can see in terms of the style of the game, right? So let's open up Game Maker Studio, let's open up the project, just so that I could take a look at some stuff. You will see that the general style of the game is very, very not pixel art. But that's because all the assets in the game are actually 3D assets, and all the textures are scaled to fit those 3D models. So you can have a very large, you can have a very large image. However, you can have a very large texture, but it's scaled down onto a moderately sized 3D object, and that's why it's not going to appear pixelated. Tiles, however, you can't rescale tiles. A 32 by 32 pixel tile will always be that size. You can't make it. You can't cram, you know, a 512 by 512 pixel tile into a 32 by 32 tile block. You'd have to make your own tile system that uses 3D objects, and I don't want to do that. That is way too much work for way too little reward. I think it would just be a lot easier to upscale all the stuff in the level, and that's not a lot as of right now. Okay, so let's see, what project was this? Okay, so I think this is from 2017, or was it 18? Here we go. Okay, engine 7. Try this out. Oh man, should move some of this stuff and position. Okay, let's go ahead and run this. Now, I think, for the sake of keeping up with the progress for the, you know, educational platform, I think I'm gonna actually be working on 2 projects at the same time, just so that I could make progress more or less evenly spread across the 2 projects. That means live streams for both, recordings for both, and, you know, progress and materials for both. So I'm probably gonna have to establish some sort of a schedule that I can stick to, and I can work with that schedule and on that schedule. All right, let me actually test the chat for a moment, make sure that it's popping up everywhere. Oh, maybe not. That's kind of weird. Anyways, so here's the project, right? As you can see, the grass is pretty pixelated, and you can also see this repeating pattern, which is not good. You know, I don't really want it to look like you can tell that it's a repeating pattern, right? But that's kind of what I need to do right now. I need to make the concept art for this project here. There's also a question of how am I going to handle animations? How am I going to handle animations to this? Because Game Maker Studio does not support bones natively. You need to create a shader that will support the bones for you, and that's like another huge project you have to take on. So not a lot of fun. So I need to figure out how am I going to animate the character. And, you know, this right here is just a placeholder character, obviously. I'd have to come up with a design of that character. Other than that, I do like the way this project looks. If anything, maybe if I could have some ambient occlusion, maybe that would make for an interesting effect. Okay. Oh man, I swear to God, this goddamn dog. I mean, you can still hear it. You know, without fail, what is that dog barking at? No, well. It is what it is. Okay, so I just want to quickly establish that I have chat working, so it's kind of important. Okay. Storefronts. Just a quick checkup. Paste. Okay. And brewing table slide. Interesting. Hey, beautiful. That's all I wanted. Just make sure that this thing is running. And we'll do a quick test. Test. Somebody type something into chat. I want to make sure that the chat is working. At least that I can see. That I can see it work. Actually, you know what? Oh, I am streaming to the right channel, right? That's the most important thing. Yep, there's somebody on Twitch. Alright. Alright. Right. You know what's interesting? They actually switched the chat application to now use an embedded web-based chat, not the standalone one. I mean, it makes sense. Now they only have to develop one application and it'll just scale to scale to the app and the web version and the mobile version and yada yada yada. So it kind of works out from their end in their flavor. Okay. Okay. So the things that I want to work on. Let's run this. Hey, okay. So the web version is working. The local version, not so much. Yeah, the local version does not want to work. So what's the point of the desktop version? Honestly. Okay, fine. I'll just have to use the web version. So, we have all these items, which I've already written out when I've started working on this project. We've got dirt grass, passive NPCs, boars. Okay, so these are kind of the wildlife creatures that you can come across. So that's understandable. All right. Okay, now I don't want it to be too bulky, so to speak. I mean, I guess I am going for a very cartoonish look, so it would probably make sense for it to be kind of, you know, bulky, but I don't really want it to be too Don't Starve-ish. Right? I don't want it to look too much like Don't Starve. Okay. Let me actually do this. No? No. I do want to take a look at a boar reference. Okay. So we're looking at reference images. Hey. Okay, so I don't want cartoon, thank you very much. I just want the real one. I want the real stuff. Hey, there we go, finally. I just had to reload the app. Now the chat's working. Anyways, okay, so boar, real, thank you very much. This one's got a mohawk. Kind of interesting. What I actually want to do is I want to get myself always on top. Okay. Beautiful. So I'm gonna quickly export this. Highly recommend. Okay, don't run right away. Drop over here, and we'll pin it over here. Beautiful. Alright, control space, and fantastic. Now I know the Krita has its own little reference tool. The problem is that sometimes those references just disappear from the file, so it's kind of redundant relying on them at the time being. Okay. And I probably want to make him look less like a piggy. The whole point is to try as many things as we can. It's gonna be one angry warthog. I'm not sure how I'm gonna animate him. To be honest, this kind of a project would really ask for properly animated characters, so I don't know how I would pull off animations. I mean, I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Let's see, what can we do? Actually, you know what's best? What is best is actually to use Chrome for these occasions. Chrome in guest mode. Okay. Guest window. Okay, beautiful. That's like the best solution for live streaming. So we're looking at... What are we looking at? Game Maker Studio. Offset. Texture page. This is just something that I have to consider. Texture pages. Create from surface, trouble loading external texture pages. Huh. You know what? I'll probably have to ask on the forum. Yeah, I'll probably have to ask on the forum afterwards. Okay. We'll figure this out. Okay. Get our boar on the screen. Hias. Welcome back. You know, I still haven't really even decided what's the stylistical direction I want to go in terms of the character designs. I mean, yeah, the environment is kind of set up already, more or less, you know, with the objects around, but these are kind of comic booky-ish looking assets. So the question is, what is everything else gonna look like, right? I mean, I kind of started out with some pretty generic images. This looks kind of cartoony, so I mean that could suggest it, right? What's the balance between serious images and a cartoony cartoony style? Also, there was something, I think I may have fixed it. Okay. Yeah, it was, I remember having problems with figuring out directions, so I guess I got that figured out. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so this guy with a hump actually kind of makes a lot more sense. And, you know, these are wild boars, so obviously they'll be pretty muscular. Okay, and to deviate it from looking like a pig, I think I need to replicate the face shape to be more of a cone, more of a triangle, like this. This is already a lot better scale than, say, this guy. Looks a lot better. That one actually looks like a weird breed between a pig and an armadillo. Or a boar and an armadillo. That's a weird creature. Okay, so, you know, I can go with this. Well, let's see. Every single board photo is this like 3/4 view. Hey, there we go. Nice side view. What a weird creature. Looks nothing like a pig. But I'm pretty sure it shares ancestors. Pre-domesticated. Yeah. Yeah, I think we can work with this. Now, am I gonna go with just... Ooh, I think I can go with just just white eyes, no irises. That would look creepy. Oh yeah, I think it fits with the theme. What if just hollowed eye sockets, no eyes at all? That could be an interesting suggestion. Let's see. It could work out. Maybe. I'm thinking maybe the possessed ones can have just hollowed out eye sockets. It's kind of creepy. Because we do have possessed animals. We do have possessed animals in this game. So we've got crows, stalkers. Man, these are some generic enemy names. Okay, wraiths. Blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna have to change those names. Holy cow. These are super generic. Okay, tonics. Well, these are mechanics. Wasn't there like an idea section in here somewhere? Okay, so we got treasure chests, tall trees. Okay, here we go. So we've got phantoms, human-like entities, poltergeists. Can possess any physical object and attack player if he gets too close. Stalkers, invisible enemies who haven't quite managed to cross over to this realm and got stuck in between. They walk around in random directions, leaving footprints until they find prey. When they see the player, they up their pace. Okay. Crows. Single crow might try to make a pass at the player while he is not facing. A flock of crows will swoop by, trying to damage the player as much as possible. The attack is preceded by an approaching crow sound. Possessed wildlife, boars and wolves. Here we go. So these are the two actually possessed wildlife NPCs that we have. So, yeah, I think we can work with black sockets. Let's see. Not the bees. What are you talking about? What do you mean? Okay, so we'll start with this. Actually, I think these eyes are a little bit too big for a wild boar. It depends on how you draw the eyes. Whew. These eyeless boars. Add bees as an enemy. I don't think bees would do a whole lot. I mean, why bees, right? I understand you can probably get, if you're thinking like you can get honey from bees, but why would you? I mean, in this game, see, we have berries. So I guess berries can be dealt with hunger. Can deal with hunger. I don't know how much of a survival game this is gonna be, to be honest. I see crafting and brewing are integral parts of this game, but that's because the whole idea is to be able to create potions for battle. So, I mean, you know, if crafting is a huge deal, then I guess survival would have to be. Sometimes, I guess you can lump them together. They come hand in hand. Maybe. Honey could be crafted with the meat to make glazed meat. Yeah, but I mean the purpose of it. Okay. This was the interior. So This game is actually 2 games in one, because there's the 3D portion and a 2D portion. That's kind of important to keep together, and I think at some point I had something in this room that would toggle the menu in and out. Oh well. The thing is that there is a story in this game. There's a campaign. So I have to balance my workload, the amount of work I can put into this project. I have to balance between making a survivor game, or like the survival game, and making a story-driven game. Increases how much it fills. So that would imply that I'd have to introduce the concept of hunger into this project. So I guess you do have berries. So hunger would have to be a part of it. Okay. Okay, so I can actually go ahead and let's see, what is this tool? Outline selection tool. So Krita, keyboards, outline selection tool. This you have to be an L key, which is currently assigned to make brush color lighter, which no, I don't need that. Okay, so automatically I don't need any of these because they look too much like pigs. Okay. So another thing from our script, so we have wolves, right? Wolves is another NPC that we need to design. So for that, wolf. Let's look at our different wolves. These look so much like huskies. Holy cow. Don't make the mistake though. Okay, so wolf, teeth. Okay, here we go. Something like this. Okay, so we're looking at a general shape like I guess pointy ears would probably mean so we have a hostile. And this is way too much like detail for a game asset, obviously, so I'd have to simplify this just to make it easier to animate. Okay. Looks more it looks more like a fox, actually. More or less. Actually, here's an interesting thing. Are foxes still considered canine? Okay. See, animating this is gonna be... Oof. Okay. Wolf. Just want to take a look at the back legs. Okay, proportions. Well, I mean, more or less. Needs more defined snout. I'd probably have to actually simplify the... I'd have to simplify the whole shape. Like, I can define the black snout better, but I have to simplify it for the purpose of making it easy to animate by myself. Okay, and plus this is kind of just the first pass at it. Okay, come on. What is this? Transform tool, Control T. Well, yes. Why does Krita complain that the keyboard shortcuts that have been defined are too ambiguous and you have to redefine them with the same key? Look at that. Control T. Control T. Whoops. Yes. Maybe it's just me discovering a bug of some sort. Okay. Foxes are much more closely related to dogs than cats. Well, yeah, I mean, I didn't think that foxes were related to cats. They're way too different from cats. Part of the canine biological family. Okay, so yeah. That pretty much says that much. Yeah, when I look at a cat, or when I look at a fox, I do not think that that looks like a cat. It actually resembles a wolf more than anything. Okay. Okay, we are making a spoopy game, so we're gonna have to make... Gonna have to make this stuff look spoopy. Animating this alone is going to be a challenge. Actually, kind of looks more like a coyote. At least that left one. Oof. These are actually some pretty terrifying wolves. We're looking at the front angle, so we should probably still be able to see a little bit of the inner ear. Okay, not from that angle, but also, how many different angles are we gonna have for the animated sprite, right? How many directions will the sprite be facing? Is it just up, down, left, or right? Or am I gonna have to go into like animating the diagonal as well? Which, realistically speaking, animating the diagonal is just 2 more sprites, right? Because you can flip them, right? So going up that way, right? So like going up this way, you know, here's the tail, here's the head, is the same thing as basically going this way. It's just flipped, right? Left and right can also be flipped. Up and down, oof, not so much. Not so much. Let's see, so we've got the general shape like this. That's the rib cage. And okay, so we can move the muscles this way. We gotta follow the shape of the body, or the shape of the back leg, but still has to be proportional. Okay, here we go. Well, okay, once again, proportional is kind of a moot point at this point. Perspective is going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little bit tricky. Figuring out which area or which angles we're going to be drawing our sprites from. Okay, here we go. I mean, it's experimental, so I guess we'll just have to do. Let's see. Actually, what we can do is we can probably say wolf skeleton. just to see how the skeleton wraps around the actual body, and see if it works out. Let's see. Yeah, so with the static objects, it's kind of straightforward. The angle at which we're going to be looking at this. So let me drop this guy back in here. Run the project. Right. Right, so when we look at, say... Ooh, we're walking slow. I think I need to actually get the room set up to be the first object in here. I think there's a bunch of stuff that gets loaded up. Yep. Object interface. Yeah. Yeah, so these static objects are kind of... You know, I could technically see it. I think I could see it. The wolf running, let's say, from over there. Would have to test this out. I'm really hoping not to go into, like, aerial angles. Aerial angles for the enemies or NPCs and whatnot. Okay. I think this will work out. Let's see. So let's... A saber-toothed wolf. Oh, jeez. See, I think the height of it kind of makes it look kind of retarded. If you ever seen one of those horrible inbred huskies, or not huskies, it was like bad. Let's see, bad German Shepherd breed, and pardon my spelling. Okay, so it kind of looks like. Yeah, one of these guys. It's just breeding the German Shepherd with the wrong breed, and they end up having these stumpy little back legs, and they end up having to suffer through the entire life. Like this. Yeah. It's terrible. That's what happens when somebody who doesn't know how to breed dogs ends up breeding dogs. Let's see, what was it? What was it? Dwarf German Shepherd. Okay, that might actually be an actual breed. There! Look at that thing! Oh my god. That is terrible. Well, believe it or not, as sad as this is still, like, you can use this as concept art research. You know, as bad as it is. I mean, what happens when you're making concept art for a zombie video game? You're gonna have to research corpses, right? You're gonna have to research mummies. You're gonna have to research dead people. You're gonna have to research how, you know, a corpse looks when it decomposes. You have to do concept art research, right? So in this case, I mean, yeah, it's sad, but it serves the purpose of being a reference for, let's say, something very creepy like. You know what this thing actually reminds me? What's the eyeball enemy from Half-Life 1? Life 1 enemy. I don't remember what it's called. This guy. Right, this guy. That's what it kind of reminds me of. Right? I mean, yeah, you just get rid of the head, and that's, you basically have one of these enemies. So yeah, well, it sucks. It sucks. Yeah, I know, poor puppy, but you know, we're here to do some work. We're here to do some research, and sometimes research ain't pretty. Okay, so. See, I think it's because I'm lumping the head so low on the body, for one, and also the fact that the head is actually so disproportionately huge compared to the rest of the body. Right, here we go. I mean, this is kind of borderlining into more of a realistic rendition of what a wolf looks like. So you see, smaller proportions. It just kind of sits a lot better. Right, same thing. Do that. Ooh, that's one buff. One buff wolf. One buff wolf. Okay. I mean, this right here looks like a very stylistic rendition of what a wolf would look like. In this case, I mean, I guess it could fit. I mean, how many different ways can you draw a wolf in? Right? And the answer is many. If you're up for the task and if you do enough research and if you have imagination. Alright. See, animating this is gonna be troublesome, to say the least. Whoops. 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? Oh yeah, and I should probably save this. Yeah, let's see. 2018 concept art. Oh yeah, there's lots of concept art here. So let's actually make a new folder. Enemies? Sure. Okay. Wildlife, boar, wolf. There's also a crow. So that's something I'm gonna have to look at. Crows would have to be super simplified. And okay, let's see. So we've got this general shape. Okay, we have the wing. I think the beak style will really dictate what this thing looks like. So, first of all, the head is kind of flat. Oh yeah. He's crazy for Cocoa Puffs, or cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Actually, no, wait. That's not the right one. What's the Toucan Sam one? Okay, so we've got that body. It's actually kind of a little bit too upright. Okay, now he looks way too much like a seagull. That's not good. That's not what I need. Okay. So let's see. General face. I don't think the crows are going to be as detailed as other characters, or, you know, at least as the other wildlife, just mainly because they're actually, a lot of them are going to be in flocks. There will be some crows, say, that are on the ground, and if you run up to them, they will fly off, and some of them will probably try to attack back. Or just, you know, attack in the first place. So yeah, so I think they're going to be maybe like 1 or 2 frames. You know, wing up. let's see, wing up, wing down, and then like this, right? Nothing too complicated. And we can just use multiple of those objects as like a pseudo particle. Actually, I think GameMaker Studio has 3D particles. Studio 3D particles. Okay. Let me actually look that up here. Ooh, fascinating. GameMaker Studio 3D particles. Advanced 3D effects. Right. Particle designer. How to use particles in 3D. Or maybe not. Maybe it was a different engine. Particles did not work as intended. Okay, so maybe, yeah, maybe it was a different engine. I'd have to look into it. Okay. And obviously this guy. Let's see. Crow. Proportions, proportions, proportions. Now, I don't know if it's gonna be like a full-on black silhouette for the actual animated one. Right, and we'll just kind of animate the silhouette in a way that would more or less look cohesive. That's what happens when you draw without a reference. You know, so like 2-3 frames of the animated crows. Although, you know, if everything in here looks more or less defined, using like a generic outline or silhouette would probably not work out as well as I'm thinking that it will. Okay, well, this is fine. And if I take a look at the script now, so we got wolves, we've got boars, crows. Okay, what's next? Ghastly gown-wearing apparitions. Okay. First of all, is that how you spell gown? I don't know. Okay. Old. Really? That's okay. Maybe I have a misconception of what the hell a gown is. Although it could kind of work out. Let's see. Style. Style. Since I'm drawing characters, this is actually where the question of style will come up pretty heavily. Because right now this is more or less human, non-cartoony proportions, more or less, mind you. Animating this, I can only imagine how difficult it's going to be. I think I can skip legs. Don't really need legs in here, do we? Maybe not. Okay, so let's take this. Let's drop it down. You should see the concept art that I was working, the concept art I made for the Birth of Reapers project. That's the project that I actually did not live stream, and a lot of the concept art that I've already made for it is actually really cool looking. And the Birth of Reapers is supposed to be, it's this crawl-like co-op button smasher, like hack and slash game. And it was inspired by the Crawl game. However, the Crawl game was kind of misleading with its co-op, quote-unquote co-op. It's more competitive than co-op. And I wanted to make something more in the same style, so same pixelated style, except with co-op and with a metal soundtrack instead of, you know, the 8-bit one. Maybe it would be like metal mixed with 8-bit. You know. This is the point where you have to experiment. Okay. Crawl is... Well, look it up. Look it up on Steam. Crawl game. I think I'd have to make the head just a tiny bit smaller. Although, nah, you know, yeah. Okay, style. So what if we go with, you know, the good old big heads, tiny body. Tiny body style. I mean, once again, I haven't figured out what the style of it is. I do like the concept that Crawl introduces, and I do like the style. I like the hack and slash nature of it, but to be honest, just that tiny thing, the fact that it's competitive as opposed to cooperative, to me that doesn't sell the game. I'm not a fan of playing against my friends. Okay. This has an interesting style to it. I think. Let's explore this for a little while. This kind of looks very endearing. Not so much creepy or horror based, and you know, maybe it could work out. Okay, well, this is more of a skeleton thing, so we're looking for dead things which look less like skeletons and look more like zombies, I guess. Child of Aether, is that the name of the game you're developing? Yeah, it's one of my many projects. It's not only a game, it's also a game development course. So everything that's happening here is getting recorded and it's going to be uploaded to the Concept Bay website, my own game development educational platform. So it's a multi-part project, so to speak. I'm just currently exploring the different styles I can take the game into. I gotta pair up the general aesthetic of this sort of a game, and I gotta come up with a style for the characters. Because I think from the character design, we can deviate the design of all other things, right? Okay. Okay, so how about we'll try this. Such a pain thinking about what props to make and add to the rooms. The original Pop Ghost barely had any. Oh, I see. Well, I mean, this is what concept art for, man. Take a screenshot of your Pop Ghost room and just put it into Photoshop and start drawing stuff on it. Or if you don't have a tablet, you can print out the piece of paper and the screenshot as a piece of paper and just draw on top of that, right? That's what concept art is for, right? You're not supposed to be coming up with all these different things you can fill a room with when you're supposed to create those things, right? First, you're supposed to create the concept art, all the design stuff. This is the stage where you come up with everything. And afterwards, when you start modeling, this is where you don't have to think about what it is you're creating. You're just creating it. That's the purpose of concept art. Okay, so I don't mean Photoshop as in you have to use Photoshop, right? Krita, right in front of you, is free. You can use this without paying a penny, right? So it's not so much that you don't have any money for Photoshop, it's so much that you're kind of lazy and you don't want to do this stuff. But this is the precedent where you find yourself in. You didn't want to do this work before, and now you're stuck in a corner when you're trying to create models and you don't know what the hell you're supposed to create, right? This is a prime example of why you need to put concept art. You need to put time into concept art, right? All this time you're spending right now in the 3D modeling software thinking what it is that you have to create, that's wasted time. That wasted time that you could have spent actually drawing up the different items in the level, right? So the fact that you don't have any money for Photoshop is not a valid excuse. There's GIMP, there's Paint.net, which I've seen you use, right? There's Paint.net, there's GIMP, there's Krita, there's like Pencil. There's tools are available, right? It's the way you use them. Okay. So how about with this one? Let's go for something creepy like that. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Give this creature some chapstick. Oh, this is a ridiculous looking... looks like a pruned orange. Okay, but what's gonna happen if instead of going with purely black eyes, I would actually not do that and explore, let's say, just the white eyes. So this pertains to the process of creating a model from the basic aspect to expressions in the basic form. Well, basically, in a sense, is that when you're working on a game in a crew, like if it's a large game project, and it's not limited to large game projects, but usually with a large game project, they have a separate team of concept artists. These are the people who do this. They draw the stuff that's supposed to be in the game, right? They come up with the designs for weapons, costumes, environments, everything. And then all of these drawings get approved or denied, or they get partially approved and they have to go through more renditions. And once they do get approved and they're pretty much set, they get passed on to the 3D modelers, right? 3D modeling artists, and they take these images and they create the 3D models from those images, right? So there's almost no artistic say in the 3D modeling part. The problem is that with indie developers, what they tend to do is they tend to go straight into like Maya or Blender, and they start sculpting and modeling 3D objects right away. The problem is that after maybe like 2-3 objects, you have to think about, oh, I mean, what else is this room gonna use, right? And that kills your productivity. That does irreparable damage, and it burns you out really quick, right? So this is why concept art has to be done first, right? There's no thinking involved in modeling. You just do. You just create. Okay. So I do like the way the mouth is turning out here. I find that to be pretty cool. Okay, so what if we go like this? Okay, let's put a socket, cheekbone. Okay, wrinkles, or whatever you want to call them. Every large structure tend to overwhelm, but there's a breaking point and some opening in game fields. If you're talking about the level, environment or the level design, then yeah, you gotta variate your level designs once in a while. But I hear what you're saying. Creative people don't do the grit, and they should. Yeah, I mean, if you manage to get it done, then you manage to get it done, right? But especially in from my experience, the burnout happens long before you actually get any sort of meaningful results out of it, right? And that's the worst. Like, that's your worst enemy. When you're enjoying concept art, I have trouble thinking of things to draw out. Well, this is where you have to do concept art research, right? So, I mean, what sort of a level are you trying to make, right? If it's a pop goes, and let's say it's like an abandoned restaurant. So in this case, you type in abandoned restaurants, right? Go to the images and start doing your research right away. There's a thumbnail from some YouTube video. All right, let's take a look here. Counters, chair designs, the little table designs, right? Ceiling fixtures. I mean, this looks kind of modern. Let's take a look at this one. We've got very old, very like 80s looking tabloids. Once again, chair styles. These look like they're mounted directly into the ground. Let's see. Here's a nice one, right? The armature and the fixtures in the walls for destroyed restaurants. This is what concept art research is for. Hey, look at this. A super rusty destroyed buffet lineup thing, right? So even with the low res, you can already pull some really good quality stuff. Let's take a look at this one. This looks very very 80s, well, not even, it's like a very 60s style, like something you'd see in BioShock. So this is really cool. You pull up a lot of information, right? Welcome to the this is where you get all your ideas when you're out of ideas, right? All art imitates life, right? This is where you have to go and you do your research with these things, right? Yeah. Welcome to concept art. I hope you learned something today. Hey, look at this. You know, you want a design of a counter? Look at that, very 80s look, very old looking counter. And once again, the style is defined probably by these very like retro looking chairs, right? There's another shot of the counter. Look at the sign, the carryout sign, that triangular sign, that like screams 80s, right? That screams like 80s diner, right? The lamps, the fan over there. You know, you can pull up a lot of information over there. It's all for creative people to do. Grit, I'm saying. Worst case would be they're the ones actually helped by being left to do. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, if you look at this, if you're seeing this as just grind and nothing else, then you may not be quite enjoying the sort of work you do. But that only applies to like indie production, right? If you work in a studio, chances are most of the stuff you're going to be doing is other people's visions and other people's ideas, which are not always exciting to you, but that's the difference between a job and a hobby with a career. With a hobby and career, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever, you know, pleases you. However, you know, that's the difference in here. You know, the advice of doing concept art research and researching everything for your own games will ultimately benefit your game and your let's say roadblock, or you know, whatever you call it, the creative block, writer's block. I'm saying that you need that large structure for people to do what they could do, but an overbearing superstructure will reduce anything that flows beneath into empty ends. Are you talking about the superstructure being the flow of how you're supposed to get the stuff done? Like the superstructure being first is the concept art, then the 3D, and then, you know, yada yada. Is that what you're referring to? Because if you take a look at how concept art is done, there's a lot more steps than just concept art and then 2 3D animations, right? So just incorporating concept art first before you even do 3D animations alone by itself is not a huge thing to ask, right? But as you can see, I've just demonstrated highest was in a roadblock, or in a creative, you know, writer's block, or whatever the visual like artists would have, or artist block, I guess. And I showed them that you have to do concept art research to imitate from life, and you know, the result, the guy knows where the direction he needs to go in, right? Yeah, interesting, fascinating looking. This is a creepy looking character, but an interesting style nonetheless, I would say. Okay. Not too bad. This looks pretty cool, I have to say. There's just one character from the oh God, what's the project name? For God's sakes. Birth of Reapers. The concept art from Birth of Reapers. There's this one really cool looking character that I think is going to be pretty interesting to animate, and the the idea behind that character, or the way that character behaves, is also kind of interesting. It's like this, it's this invisible, let's see, these are levels, enemy designs, this guy, this character. So he's basically this like phantom ghost-like character that appears, it's mostly invisible, and it flies behind the player, and as soon as it, it's ready to take a swipe at him, it appears. So, but most of the rest of the level, it's basically invisible. And I have it written down in one of the scripts, the proper way of like hunting it down. These are some other character designs, yada yada yada. There's like, I think you have to stand still, and you have to watch for like little shimmers in the surrounding space to see if you can detect whether or not that enemy is around. Okay. Okay, now what enemy is this again? I forget. What was it? This is ghastly gown wearing apparition. So I wouldn't say, I think that has to be a female character, to be honest. I don't think a male character would work well in a gown. So this would be phantoms, human-like entities. Huh. Okay, so how about we'll introduce another enemy type, and this is a okay, I'll call it Hollow for the time being. Change name because this name is stupid, but the basic idea of it is so it's a child, or I guess a citizen who's been drained of life, and it's gonna be it's gonna be more like a zombie, more or less, and we'll probably have a couple of quests involving looking for characters who have turned hollow, but yeah, I'd have to change that name. A citizen has been drained of life. So for that, I actually think that this character right here would be perfectly fit. Right? You'd be able to look for characters, because this is supposed to be like a dystopian thing, where you're looking at children. Josh, how's it going? Welcome back. This is the point where you're looking at NPCs saying, "Oh, my friend or my like fiance or something is gone missing," and that would be a quest that you can do, and you'd have to find him, and he'd be hollow in a ditch somewhere. Kind of scary, but yeah, it is what it is. Okay. So here we have, let's come up with that phantom, with that phantom character. I do like the whole like big head, solution. That could work, I think. Okay, but in this case, I need to come up with something like a The Phantom or the Wraith, which one was it? Phantoms, human-like entities. See, technically Phantoms and Hollows, I think they would be the same. I think that's what they are. Yeah. Wraiths. Wraiths are the gown-wearing ones. Okay, and we'd have to make it a female character. So Josh, how have you been in? How have you been doing? Okay. So not at all pretty. Oof. Okay, and proportion-wise, I think this is as tall as we're gonna go. Should we make her armless? Just, yeah, just like, uh. Ooh. Okay, it actually kind of looks a little bit too much like she's got fangs, and that's not what it's supposed to look like. I do not want this character looking like a predator. Okay. Maybe. Maybe, I don't know. Kind of looks... She looks like E.T. Kind of, yeah. Now that you bring it up. Okay, so we probably want... more eyebrow. Oof. Creepy, man. Creepy, creepy. Okay, I actually want to label this stuff right now. Wraith. Such a generic name, man. Such a generic name. Okay. Anyways, I just want to keep the labels here. Make sure that I know that these are different objects, different characters. Okay, so what else can we do? Would probably do something like this. This kind of reminds me of the character that I did for Way Home. Oof. Ooh. Ooh. What if the jaw's just missing? I mean, the jaw could be missing. I'll try that out with the next rendition, but I could also make the jaw very small, like this. Right, very witch-like is what we have here. Okay, so this would still be in the gown. Okay, that looks a lot creepier than this. I think it's just the fullness of the face. the fullness of the face just kind of makes it look a little too huggable. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. So it's starting to look like kind of a little bit of an insect. What if we try to do like no other facial features besides the mouth? Alright, Highest, thanks for dropping by. Appreciate the company. This looks like the smiley. Fascinating. I also have to keep in mind just how complex it is going to be to actually paint this. Or animate this, I should say. Beautiful Squidward. Or handsome Squidward, I should say. Oh, jeez. Hmm. That looks way too cartoony. Way too goofy, man. Ooh, this looks interesting. Okay, and I think these cheeks look way too full. Maybe. Maybe. Nobody wants no bucktooth witch. This looks way too goofy, man. Way too goofy. So far, this one's pretty good. The presence of eyelids. That's just kind of off-putting. Gives way too much character. I'm gonna try one more thing. What if we're gonna combine maybe like animal and human features? I could try something out like this. Okay. Yeah, not the most creative names for these characters, but we'll come up with something else at a later time. Okay? For now, I think this should be more than enough for this particular live stream, so we'll continue.